If you had asked me just a short time ago, even really just probably within the last few months, even that short of a time ago, about the metaverse, I would have probably told you that it was, I don't know, kind of cool. It was maybe a little bit scary. And it was more or less kind of a toy, actually. But as you know, I've been busy putting together this Cancer Proof Summit, which starts on March 1st. Well, anyway, as part of that summit, I started talking to one of our speakers about the potential of running part of our event within that metaverse. Not all of it probably, but just parts of it. And we've sort of started that discussion. And I'm not sure if that's going to happen or not. We're still in discussion, and watch for some announcements potentially coming out there. But I began to realize as I was kind of diving into that and doing the research on it, that maybe the metaverse really isn't the gimmick that I first thought it was, and that the business applications, and this was a huge realization for me, but the business applications were actually further along than I expected. And that got me wondering, is now the time that we should be looking at the metaverse more seriously? And what about our clients? Should they be looking at it? Should we be looking at it with them? Well, today we're going to start down that whole rabbit hole. And while I don't know how far we're going to actually get today, you are going to come out of it with a much better idea of whether or not your business should be digging deeper into this new technology now instead of waiting until later to do that. Welcome back. It is Renegade News Live. Because the world of business is undergoing a seismic shift as technology is accelerating faster and faster. You hear a lot of people talking about AI and ChatGPT. You almost can't go online without hearing about those technologies. And everything is just exploding. And while it's been commonplace for quite a while to use business and conduct business operations using your computer and your computer networks, we've all been doing that forever. We've all been using software programs. The introduction now of the metaverse has taken that concept of virtual reality to an entire new level. And this is an extremely exciting development, especially for experts and influencers who we work with a lot, but also e-commerce, almost any business, because there's now this range of opportunities that were not even considered available or possible before. All of a sudden, they're becoming available right now today. And in today's live stream, we're going to explore some of those new applications and new opportunities, and how experts and influencers and other business owners as well can leverage the power of that metaverse for their own projects and initiatives. And like RCS is saying, it really is disruptive tech. It's really changing the environment of how we're going to run our businesses, how we're going to run our day-to-day lives, really. And as you're going to see in today's live stream, it's a lot closer than even I thought it was. So we're going to take a look at some of the applications, things like virtual coaching, courses, live events, meetings, and more. And we're going to understand how each of those can be used to reach broader audiences and actually grow our audience. We've talked about that before, how important an audience is going into this next century. The people who control the audience, or not control the audience, the people who have influence and who talk to a bigger audience are going to have the biggest businesses. They're going to create the most wealth. They're going to have the most influence. So having that audience is so important. So the first thing I want to talk about is, like, before we get too far into it, is what exactly is the metaverse? Well, simply put, it's a collective of this virtual shared space where users can interact with each other in these 3D simulated environments. So it's a virtual reality world. And the scope of the possibilities and the current possibilities right now within that metaverse are really almost limitless. There can be anything from social spaces where users are talking with their avatars representing themselves, and they can talk with others who have avatars representing themselves in these virtual spaces, these virtual worlds. There's obviously dynamic gaming environments, which is a huge driver of the metaverse, and provide this immersive experience. And I haven't played a lot of virtual reality games, and I'm not a big gamer, I never really have been, but I have to say, playing them in the virtual reality is an entirely different world, and it's unlike anything that we've ever done. And it's that immersive experience that makes it so powerful for our businesses to use as well. And there's really never been anything like this available for us to use in our businesses like there is right now. So for the experts and other business owners, this has just opened up huge amounts of opportunities that they were never there, or they were never even considered. And a great example, and one of the first ones that I realized recently, was the opportunity for virtual coaching. Because once we're using this avatar technology and we're in these virtual spaces, advisors can now offer one-on-one or even group coaching sessions without ever having to leave their home or their office or their studio space. They don't have to travel to their clients, and their clients don't have to travel to them in order to get this type of virtual coaching. And I know virtual coaching exists today, as we already talked about, and I'm going to talk about that in just a minute, how this takes things to the next level. But what having this virtual space does, as opposed to having in-person coaching or in-person meetings, when it comes to scheduling, we can accommodate different time zones a lot easier. Before, that was almost impossible because people had to travel possibly and go to, it was hard to have good events. Zoom has kind of changed the environment there, and more meetings, businesses are running these virtual meetings. More and more coaching companies are running these virtual coaching calls, group coaching calls, using Zoom or a tool like Zoom. But the metaverse makes it so much more engaging and so much more focused, so much more powerful, so much more useful, because you're going to retain this stuff a lot more. I know that I'm in a ton of Zoom meetings every day, and ranging everywhere from meetings with my team to meetings with other teams to meetings with clients to coaching calls, coaching where I'm getting the coaching, coaching where I'm actually doing the coaching. All of these things, I spend a ton of time in these Zoom and Jitsi meetings every single day. But I know, and this is probably admitting more than I should be out loud, but I know that it's really easy while you're in those meetings to go off and check your email, or maybe to read your Facebook, or possibly to get a little bit of other work done, because it's still not that interactive. So it's really easy to get distracted by these other things. Oh, I'm just going to go look at this other window for just a second. Oh, I'm going to check my phone. I'm going to send this quick email. I can still listen while I'm sending this quick email, but really you're not listening. You're focusing on that other thing. So there's so many things that you can be doing and focusing on besides actually focusing on the comments or the content of that meeting. And therefore, it's not as effective for you, especially for coaching. You're not going to retain as much of your coaching. If it's a business meeting, you're not as engaged, so you're not getting the solutions. And not only you as the business owner, your staff, like it or not, they're doing that too. Your coaching clients, like it or not, they're doing that too. Doing this in virtual reality is so much more like being in person, so it eliminates those issues. You still have the opportunities, but because it's more of an immersive environment, you just aren't as likely to do that. So another application is things like courses that you can do. There's and that's a big one. I think a big one, in addition to the coaching landscape, is just doing these digital courses. And what these spaces allow for is they allow trainers and business owners to host meetings, group coaching, exams, classes, any of those events. But they can all be within their own customized environment that's built within that metaverse, and it's completely customizable. I'll probably talk about that a little more later too, but imagine being able to create different modules specifically tailored towards your target audience. You can give them an interactive learning experience which generates meaningful engagement through activities such as debates, group assignments, full immersive displays and demonstrations. Conversations where you can have, in these metaverses, you can have these group conversations, but you can also step off and have private conversations with your fellow students, just like you could in a normal classroom. So if you have a group program or group workshop or group activity within those workshops, you can split off and go through those different groups and discuss those completely immersed. Something that was completely impossible before, other than if you could use physical classrooms. Zoom introduced breakout rooms, which is, again, similar, but still not near as immersive. So without this powerful new technology, you couldn't be as immersed. And even with Zoom, that's a brand new technology itself. So it's still an example of technology working towards moving us into having remote interactions that are just as good as in person. Traveling is getting to be more of a pain. It's getting to be more expensive. It's getting more difficult all the time. And you can't be two places at once. So if you have a meeting in New York and a meeting in LA in the same day, that's almost impossible. Using the metaverse, that's completely possible and realistic. So there are other ways that you can use these as well. You can use them for live events. That's something that we've been talking about doing. Definitely for some upcoming events. We have a Conscious Entrepreneur Summit coming out in April. We'll definitely be using virtual for that. We might use it as a component of the Cancer Proof Summit, but because that's in a couple of weeks, we're not 100% sure on that yet. But you can host these live events, these live summits, these conferences. So you can have conferences where you can actually walk around to different booths and have conversations with actual business owners from those booths. You can network with other attendees. You can watch videos just like you would watch on Zoom, but now you're in this 3D virtual space. But it allows you to put on a presentation that's really next level, because you can use things like projectors and normal video conferencing software and integrate that into the virtual space. So you can broadcast your content to this larger scale than ever before and open up all these opportunities for reaching new markets. But you can take it to that next level by including things like workshops, QA sessions, much more interactive, where everybody has that direct contact between customers, between the business owners, between your business staff, members, other class members, other coaching students can all interact within this space. So it is very clear that as an expert, that Metaverse offers some amazing opportunities to interact with your clients like you never could before, and to really take those expert services, your information, present it in different formats that can make it more valuable, more interactive, and have it be retained much better than you can on a static web page, than you can in a Zoom or a Jitsi meeting. And that's one of the main reasons that we're starting to experiment with it. We're actually experimenting right now for our team meetings. We're going to be starting to use those in sort of a hybrid type of Jitsi / video conference / 3D / virtual environment. So everybody can join, whether they have virtual reality glasses or not. They can just do it online in a browser. So we're starting to experiment with that to see how well that works within our team, so that we can then bring that to our clients. But there's many companies that have started to embrace this really full on, and there's been a surprising number of summits, full-on virtual summits, that have been done completely 100% in the metaverse. A lot of training programs. I was actually surprised as I was looking into it, how many corporations were actually training already using metaverse technology, and the amount of retention, the amount of cost savings for avoiding travel that is possible is incredible, because you can have an almost realistic practice experience in this environment without having to spend money on actual objects. So it makes things extremely powerful. And like I said, from the learning environment, from this coaching environment, it allows for so much of an improvement in retention, so much of an improvement in just the ability to actually take that learning and take that coaching inside of your clients to actually make it a reality in their lives. So it's super powerful there. But you might also be wondering about marketing and actually bringing on new clients, or if maybe you're in an e-commerce business, is there an application for that as well? And the truth is, there absolutely is. There's already some huge opportunities for marketing for certain different types of businesses. Right now, we're using platforms such as social media sites like Facebook and Instagram, and we're also using online forums like Reddit and Quora. So brands are already able to give potential clients access to these exclusive experiences there. Although that's really not, I really hesitate to call those experiences. It's a way that they're conversing with their clients and conversing with their potential customers. but they're not really an experience. And the metaverse allows you to actually turn that into an actual experience that you're actually doing, but you don't have to have all the costs and the restrictions that are available with physical locations. You don't have travel costs. You don't even have like things like office hours. Like if you're traveling, your office may only be open 8 till 5, but what if somebody wants to come in at 2 o'clock in the morning? Well, if you're going to be completely interactive, yeah, you still have to be there, but I would much rather get out of bed, crawl into a virtual world at 2 a.m. to meet with a client than have to travel to my office downtown to actually do that. So there's so many opportunities in this virtual space. And these networks are giving us this unprecedented level of access into people's lives, into their interest, and into what they're doing. So that's how Facebook advertising works. For example, people are looking for cat videos, but then you have advertising within that. And the metaverse is going to offer similar, although not quite as interruptive, ways of actually reaching out to those clients who are actually in those virtual spaces. But more importantly, they're going to have an opportunity to actually build relationships with the people who are actually aligning with their message. And that's going to create a more meaningful bond, one that transcends those traditional advertising methods where you have an ad that scrolls by and maybe you look on the ad. If it's something you're interested in, you click on it, you're taken to a web page. Sure, that's great. That's what we have today. But imagine if you could turn that into an instant-on conversation and now actually converse with that client. If they could use your product or service and look at it in a 3D model and actually get almost a feel for it. And yes, it's virtual. In the virtual space right now, it is visual, but I'll tell you that visual reality, it almost feels like you can touch it. And that's the next stage, is gloves and suits where you'll actually be able to feel those products as well. And those things are closer than you think. And like I said, the visual aspect and the audio aspect of the virtual space has come so far that you can really feel a lot. And if you don't believe me, go in the virtual reality and ride a roller coaster or drive a car if you get seasick. If you get car sick, go on a virtual boat ride. If you get seasick, you're going to feel it. There's many games that I couldn't play because I get sick in those environments. So it's so immersive and so real. And because of that, there's so many places that you can use this for your sales and marketing process. You can use it for lead qualification and actually discussing with your clients. You'll know right away if they qualify for your products and services, for example, without even having to set up a meeting, or you can have a virtual meeting that's so much more interactive for qualify. But you can also do things like educational events, like we talked about that earlier with summits and with training events. But you can do that to educate your clients through like webinars, virtual webinars, those types of things. You can also do like fan and customer experience events. So all of your customers, you can bring them together into some kind of fun event that just brings them closer together so they can interact with each other, interact with you, and that just builds the bonds. You can also do things like enhanced demos, and that's, I think, in the e-commerce space, I think that's massive. To be able to even look at a pair of shoes. People are buying shoes, and everybody thought, well, nobody's ever going to buy shoes or clothes on Amazon, but of course we are. We all are doing that. Well, imagine if you could look at it in a 3D space. Can't quite try it on yet. I'm sure that's coming, but you'd be able to look at them from all angles and potentially even hold it up to your feet so that, if the sizes are different, you can actually get a feel for that, at least to a better level than you can on something like Amazon today. And I personally think that that's going to be probably the biggest aspect for online e-commerce brands, is just being able to demo inventions without actually having to travel in order to do that. But you can also take things beyond that sale into the next level. You can do like platform support, help people get through the platform that you're putting out, regular customer support. Imagine customer support where you feel like you're actually talking to the customer support rep, as opposed to some guy that is some other place in the world. You're distracted, you're doing other things. This just allows you to be more interactive. And more importantly, you can get some real customer feedback. And I think that's probably one of the biggest benefits of the metaverse as far as business goes, because you can have this much tighter feedback loop between you and your potential customers. It's going to allow you to give better service. It's going to allow you to give better customization. But more importantly, I think, is it's going to be able to really allow you to hone in on your message and really drill into what message you're trying to get through to your clients and to your potential clients. And so there's so many applications. We've talked a lot about the applications, and these are applications that are available today, right now, you know, from teaching and coaching to your marketing to your internal business meetings. And the beauty is you can do this within a single integrated environment. And you can, if you want to, not mandatory, but I don't see why you wouldn't want to do this. You could do all of those things within a perfectly branded environment. So you could be an environment that shows your logos, that shows your personality. And I think that's one of the cool things is the metaverse really allows you to display your true personality and your company's true personality and culture, and allow your clients and your potential clients to get a feel for that culture. And really, honestly, it's just kind of plain cool. I mean, the whole technology is just so cool. And for those of us who are tech geeks, it's just a lot of fun to be able to do that. And I hope so far, before I get too much further, I hope by now you're at least seeing that maybe this isn't a gimmick. Maybe this is further along than you thought it was. I know that it's further along than I was thinking it was. And that there are some real world advantages today, right now, for embracing this technology, or at least starting to prep for this technology so that when it does come in mainstream, which could happen faster than you expect, and I'm going to talk about that in just a second too, but by preparing today, at least it's not going to hit you by surprise when it starts to become more mainstream. So hopefully by now you're at least asking yourself, like, should my business be thinking about this as well? So let's kind of look at some stats first of all.